Every Tom, Dick and Harry in the world of horology knows you can hardly find a brand that would get you a better investment opportunity than Rolex. Whether you're a fan of the luxury brand or not, you can't help but admire how a Rolex timepiece maintains its value over the years and, hey, sometimes even appreciates it. Alas, did you know that buying a Rolex watch is even a better investment than gold and real estate? Keep watching as we unravel the mystery behind it. In the past decade, the universe has been quite kind to the brand's very own pre-owned watches. Very, very kind. Guys, you see, one of the best rewards after going through the hassle of getting your favorite Rolex watch is that the thrill of putting on such a high-demand luxury watch isn't the only thing it offers. It's rather from the case, as you see, that same watch can still fetch you a ton of cash. Bob's Watches carried out an interesting study. The online retailer analysed the secondary market performance of the luxury Swiss watchmaker over the past decade. After their study, they realised Rolex timepieces not only beat every other competition in their field out there, they even had a tendency to do way better than the more common or, dare to say, traditional options for investments like gold, real estate and, hey, even stocks. Are you surprised? Curious about how they conducted this study over the past decade? We've done the homework for you already. Over the past 10 years, the online retailer has been buying and selling thousands of timepieces using a consistent pricing strategy that gives the company direct and unique intel into the true market value of every Rolex model. And guys, here's another interesting discovery from their study. The sales numbers they found out were point blank crazy. There was a surge in early 2017, followed by another in 2020. And throughout a 10-year period beginning in 2011 and ending in 2021, the average price of a used Rolex watch increased by about 300%, from roughly $5,000 to well over $13,000. And let's be frank with each other, things aren't exactly slowing down anytime soon. Ever since the start of the global pandemic, the value of Rolex timepieces has appreciated tremendously. And while the appreciation generally spreads across every model, two in particular shone the brightest. The stainless steel Rolex Submariner with the reference 16610 was the highest selling Rolex watch in the world over that period. The second most prominent model was, you guessed it, the Rolex Daytona, with an average pre-owned price of far over or around $30,000. It's difficult to find any watch that has been appreciated the most. Alas, while things sound so impressive, it's hard to be really surprised that Rolex watches are in such high demand. They are the world's most popular watch brand after all. However, the thing that feels so surprising though is in comparison to other traditional investments over the last decade like gold and real estate, Rolex still pulls through. Again, Bob's Watches analysed market data from macrotrends.net and the database from the Federal Reserve Economic Data, or otherwise known as FRED, and they found out that bonds and stocks actually match the performance of Rolex watches. But according to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, watches from the Rolex brand tend to appreciate at a much higher rate. Here's what the founder and CEO of Bob Watches, Paul Altieri, had to say about the study. We were surprised by how much the values have appreciated. We were hoping to come up in the top 3, so we're happy that it was number 1. The truth is, we wouldn't be shocked to see Rolex timepieces continue their dominance and prove to be solid investments for the years to come. Guys, as implied earlier, the demand for Rolex watches has even gone higher ever since the dawn of the COVID pandemic, despite the supply being unable to meet the demand. The brand has even increased the asking price of some of its top models, and we can expect the change to more than likely hit the secondary market as well, if it hasn't already happened. The traction and love Rolex gets from fans and enthusiasts alike show no signs of dying out anytime soon. $20 billion is the total estimated value of the pre-owned luxury market at the moment, and according to a report from McKinsey, it's even expected to go over $29 billion by the year 2025. If you aren't living under a rock, We're sure you must have heard the Swiss luxury watchmaking company has recently set out their own pre-owned business, which would provide a proper certifications to watches at least 3 years old. Paul Altieri believes it's a perfect move from Rolex though. He says it is a positive reinforcement of how big and important the pre-owned and vintage market is. According to Altieri, the stock market index funds would most likely continue to be the safe choice for making investments in the eyes of the average man. But alas, in terms of having more benefits, they fall behind in comparison to watches. In his words, most people have never even seen a share of stock, much less held one. A watch is at least something you can touch every day. Paul Boutros, the head of watches at Philips Americas, seems to agree with Paul Altieri's train of thought, even going ahead to even describe watches as a passionate product. He also says, if it goes up in value, consider that a bonus. But in case the value goes down, you still have something you love. If you've been monitoring the secondary market for luxury watches, you'd easily notice that the price of Rolex timepieces on the secondary market had astronomically increased during the earlier months of 2022 before having a slight dip as the year ended. Let's look at an example, shall we? According to Watch Charts, the price of a used Rolex Daytona watch had an asking price of around $48,500 in the early months of the year. But, however, that same timepiece has dipped and can now even be gotten for around $30,000. Well, on the secondary market, of course. Some months ago, Paul Altieri, Bob's Watch's very own Chief Executive Officer, made an interesting statement. He said, "Over the years, Rolex have been a solid investment, but not like the previous 5. So what could be the reason behind the crazy rise in the price of Rolex timepieces? Guys, one of the reasons behind it may just be the supply. According to reports, the Swiss luxury watch manufacturer makes around 800,000 timepieces in the span of a year. As we probably already know, the consumer desire and the brand's popularity push the burning demand to dramatically exceed the supply. And like a domino effect, this in turn creates a robust secondary market for these more available pre-owned timepieces. In short, Rolex may be making almost 1 million watches annually, but it still isn't enough to go around. However, if it does go around, the consumers can rest assured they have a literal gold mine sitting coolly on their wrists. Before you leave the store, it's worth double or triple what you paid, Altieri said. Let's face the facts, though that can only happen if you can find an authorized dealer willing to sell to you. Rolex watches are known to have extremely long waiting lists and can even span over the years before getting to your name. People have waited a year or two for their name to come up on the buyer's list. They're not going to flip it, Altieri said. On Chrono 24, Rolex watches reign supreme. Approximately 25% of the searches made on their website have all been related to the luxury brand, and guys, that's not even all. You see, around 14% of every sale made on the platform comes from Rolex timepieces, and about 81% of those were pre-owned. Tim Strake, the founder of the platform, said, "We're still seeing, for most of the watches, prices above January this year, but not as crazy as they were in March and April. But for other watches, Tim Strake described them to be very, very stable, slow but steady increase over time." Another interesting belief that Tim Strake has is about inflation. He believes it would continue to drive up demand and prices for the big 3, Rolex, Audemars Piguet and Patek Philippe brands in the coming months. A lot of people buy a watch to enjoy not only the excellent workmanship, the beauty of the watch and the brand standing, but also the value stability, he added. We have to name it not only a piece of jewelry, as well as a luxurious category, but also the actual asset class.